Hi there, and welcome to our Vegas Nation studio show, where we provide instant analysis and all up-to-date information on what is happening with the NFL Stadium set to open here in Vegas in 2020. I'm Ed Graney, sports columnist for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Review-Journal reporter Rick Velotta, our man on all things stadium. Welcome, Rick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming again with
course.
the updates. Before we get to what's happened locally with the stadium, I want to take us back. You can tell me the timeline, I think within the last few weeks. You actually, for the Review-Journal, went to Minneapolis, the site of this year's Super Bowl, to see the stadium. Mortensen Construction, who did that stadium, is going to do the Vegas Stadium. Talk about your trip to US Bank Stadium, why you took it, and kind of some of the things you learned from that project as you're now reporting on this one.
Well, first of all, it was really cold.
Yes,
yeah.
That's a little. That's a difference.
That right off the top. But the fact is there are so many parallels between our stadium project and the Minnesota stadium project, and it seemed like a likely thing to do because they have a stadium authority, we have a stadium authority. What they're doing now is what our stadium authority is going to look like in 3 years.
Right.
They have a Super Bowl coming up next month. One of these days we'll have a Super Bowl here.
Absolutely.
The same contractor, Mortensen Construction,
right,
is building our stadium here in Las Vegas.
Okay, so you're walking through, you're looking at the amenities, the bells and the whistles. Give me some examples of things that you looked at right away and said, boy, they should have this in Vegas, or boy, I don't know if they should have this, it wouldn't work in Nevada. Give us some of the amenities that you saw that maybe the folks watching who will now attend games starting in 2020 in Las Vegas might enjoy, or you don't think they would enjoy.
Well, one word, or two words actually, ethylene tetrafluoroethylene.
Way above my pay grade, my friend.
And that's
I have no idea what that means.
And I had no idea what it was either. They nickname it ETFE right now. That is the polymer that is used for the roof structure on US Bank Stadium. It's also going to be the top of the dome at the Las Vegas Stadium. In Minnesota, they're protecting themselves from the cold air, obviously. Here, it's going to protect us from the heat of the desert. Well, like I said, the people in Minneapolis love that place. When things get rocking in there, it's loud. They have all kinds of crazy Viking memorabilia everywhere. They have all kinds of things that kind of take the team to a rooting place as far as the team. I expect that fully to be a part of what the Raiders culture is going to be here. They will find some things that are going to be different than even in Oakland that they're going to have in that Las Vegas Stadium, and it's going to be loud. And assuming that we have a good fan base here, it's going to be a real home team advantage.
Bringing it back closer to home, talking to Rick Velotta, our man on all things stadium for the Review-Journal. So this week, I know you were at the Board of Regents meeting. You always get excited for those, Rick. I know that's the favorite thing for you to do. The Board of Regents meeting, where the lease agreement between the Raiders and UNLV was shown to the Regents. I'm sure they'd seen it before, but the Regents then were able to ask questions if they had any issues with the lease agreement. Going into, I think your feeling was it was as solid as they were going to get in terms of an agreement between the team, the Raiders and UNLV. Take us through that meeting on Thursday. Any surprises in terms of what the Regents thought or said?
Not too many surprises because, like you said, we kind of thought going into it there were a lot of things to like about that joint use agreement that UNLV is trying to put together. One thing that really stood out to me was that the Regents really did their homework.
They read it, actually.
They asked a lot of intelligent questions. They made some comments throughout that the Chancellor Tom Riley is going to take back to the Raiders and say, hey, can we add a paragraph like this to this just to make it a little bit more comfortable for the Regents to approve. They reviewed a lot of aspects of it. One of the things that really stood out was the scheduling aspect of it. From the very beginning, we knew when Senate Bill 1 was passed that the Raiders and the NFL would have control over the scheduling.
Yeah. Did you raise your hand and ask if the Regents had been watching Texas Tech and Chris Beard this year?
I did not.
Oh, I wish you would have. Come on. Anyway, so with the Regents now, they have to vote. They didn't vote yesterday. Take us through that process. When is the next meeting? And you would expect that the vote will go through and we will not have a Chris Beard drama situation where everyone's on edge on if something's going to get done.
Exactly. Well, again, everybody kind of knew from the very start that this meeting on Thursday was not going to be a meeting where a vote was going to be taken. They knew that it was just strictly a review. They went through the whole 65 pages of the document, and they knew up front that they're going to be meeting again on January the 19th. And at that time, I'm told that's the very first item on the agenda. It will be voted upon, and then everybody's happy as far as the Regents are concerned. That vote will then get taken to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, which has to put their final stamp on it. And it's one of the key elements in putting together this final stadium development agreement, which we all suspect is going to be voted on probably at the February 15th meeting.
Okay, also this week, the county commissioner okayed the deal to build the stadium. I was completely naive on that, in that tell us how important, I assume it was an important step that the commission did this. And then yesterday, people were actually tweeting pictures of ground being blown up down there. Now, I don't know if that's the real hole in the ground. I don't know if that was to build the offices, but it seemed like they blew something up down there. So talk us through the county commission, and what did I see yesterday on Twitter with that blast?
Okay, so what happened with the county? The county also has to sign off
on the deal,
the development agreement. The one part of that, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, is that they deferred any action on what's going to happen as far as the parking is concerned.
Here we go.
However, what some of the specific details about what the Raiders must provide in terms of services to the county that are going to be, amplified basically by the presence of this stadium. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that the Raiders agreed to have some kind of an office or a holding cell, so to speak, for people who get belligerent at games. They want to have something aside that keeps people away from the public view, that is something where Metro can be
a timeout room.
Right, exactly.
Okay. What was the blast?
The blast.
What was that yesterday? It was all over Twitter. I'm like, are they already blown the hole out?
They are. They
wow.
are. One of the things
that's good. That's a big step.
It is a big step, and there's a lot of earth to be removed there, and we've talked about caliche before and how hard that substance is.
We're back on the caliche.
Yes, so you do need some dynamite and things to blast that stuff out of there. The removal of the dirt surface in there is going to, create that bowl that's at least 30 feet deep, and that's where the field will sit down below ground. And obviously, that's something that has to be done over a series of time. They expect to be doing a lot of blasting over the next month or so.
Okay. I talked to you about this yesterday. Now, I'm sure they're great people down in Henderson. Wonderful people. We like all of them. I don't know if I'd want them to be my real estate agent if I'm selling my house, though, because they essentially have agreed, in context, to sell the Raiders a parcel of land that has been valued at a little over $12 million for half that price to build the practice facility for Mark Davis's team down in the Henderson area. I think I know why they would sell them at that, because I think about, the kind of the having that team there and having them live among that community perhaps there. So I get it, but was it still a better deal than even than I'm saying, or were you surprised that they did this? We'll give it to you for half the money.
I was a little bit surprised by the amount, but at the same time, it's purely an economic development play. Definitely, 100%.
So we want them Henderson, or does it come down to we want them, Summerlin can't have them?
Well, that's part. Obviously the communities around Las Vegas could have been bidding for this at some point in time, but Henderson came up with the idea that if we provide this land, 55 acres roughly, at a pretty minimal price, a price that's very appealing to the Raiders, and of course the Raiders are going to jump right on that.
Oh my gosh!
Sure.
So that's with what he's paying coaches. That's the best deal he's had. Best deal he's had in a while.
This week, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, this week.
Yeah. So they're looking at it in terms of the long term. All right, you have a headquarters for, let's face it, it's a big corporation.
Yes.
That's going to be in Henderson
with some pretty famous guys walking in there every day.
That's right. It's right near Henderson Executive Airport. Very easy access, transportation-wise.
Private planes.
Think about some of the hotel properties down there. M Resort's got to love this idea.
Oh, yes.
Because when people come in to visit the practice facility or the headquarters for any business reasons, they're just a real close place to stay. Think about all the people who will be living in that area that are going to be doing grocery shopping, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. It's all going to go into the Henderson tax base. So. I
get it now.
It's a deal for.
I think I got it before, but I get it better now.
Yeah,
I'm slow, but I'll catch up.
Definitely
eventually.
A deal for them.
We can't obviously have one of our stadium shows and not talk about the large elephant in the room named parking. And I know they have, I think, a year to get this settled. Have you heard anything? Are there any updates? How was the parking in Minnesota? I know it's a different state. It's a completely different place. I've been in Minneapolis a lot compared to where it's going to be here in Russell Road. But any updates on the parking? What did you think of parking there? And are there any updates here?
It's a really interesting environment in Minneapolis in terms of the parking, because there really isn't any.
So there isn't any. So
Yeah.
they've probably got the same issue?
Yeah, they have a similar issue. It's a lot different because of the fact that they have light rail.
Right.
About 1/3 of the people who go to the
Right.
stadium on a regular basis use that light rail. There's a stop that's like right next to the stadium. Really easy. Get on, get off. Tickets are only $2 to get on that train. So that part of it is really exciting. Now, as far as the rest of the parking, because I said 1/3 of them, so that means 2/3 of the people there are going to be parking someplace close by. There are private parking lots and garages within a 1-mile radius of the stadium that will accommodate 40,000 vehicles.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of parking,
lot.
actually. And one of the things you think of was, well, gosh, you still have to walk a mile in Minneapolis, really?
Right.
They
You
have
know what? There's
they
a
have
lot of
sky
indoor
view
walking
system.
there, though. Those sky views. I don't walk when I'm in Minnesota in the winter. I don't find myself outside a lot.
That's right. That's right. And the people down there understand that. They know it. They figured out how to use those
Yes.
things. So it's a real easy walk in climate-controlled environment. You take your jacket off and leave it in the car. Walk to that tunnel that goes
Yep.
over the streets, and it goes right into the stadium.
Into the stadium.
Right.
Terrific. So parking here, it's kind of wait and see.
Yeah, and I think the situation here, we've heard some rumblings that they're possibly looking at the Valley Highland. We've heard that before, and I don't know that anything has developed any further in those negotiations.
So finally, give us a timeline. Like, what's next? What's the important steps? And when does it become? You know what? It's just daily construction, and we're doing those timeline videos out there with Vegas Nation to show people, the whole construction process.
Yeah. Well, actually, the next meeting that we're going to see is next Thursday, and that will be a special meeting of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Long ago, they kind of saw that this was going to be one of those situations where everything's going to get crowded towards February 15th, when they hope to get everything completed. So they knew that they wanted to have more than one meeting in January. So they added this special meeting, which will be next Thursday. At that meeting, it's possible, I have not seen an agenda yet, but it's possible that they could approve some of these pending agreements that are out there that they've looked at, but they haven't quite put their stamp of approval on. They've had an opportunity to reread them, review them all, make sure that they're in order, and they'll vote on them. There's like 17 of them that they have to complete throughout the entire process. So it might be that we'll see a handful of those approved at the next meeting on Thursday. After that comes that January 19th Regents meeting, where we know what we're expecting.
I'm really going to try to
happen
make
there.
that one. I just
think
want
you
to get
should.
back to one
I
of those
think you
meetings.
should, Dad.
It's exciting. Just the thought of it.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got to get off that date ahead to that meeting.
And then the next Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting will be in late January. I believe it's the something like the 25th, something around there. It's a Thursday afternoon again. Again, they'll go through some of the agreements that haven't been completed yet. And then the big one is February 15th.
Okay.
That's the one where we expect that we will see a final stadium development agreement. And the reason why that's so important is that at that time, the contractor, M.A. Mortensen Company, will be providing a final definitive price.
So
on
you'll get the
stadium.
final number.
Exactly. We've been assuming that it's going to be in the ballpark of $1.9 billion.
I think it's north of $2 billion in the end.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too, but we'll see what happens. They might cut out that beer room. Who knows?
Well, if
see
they
what
do that, I
happens.
know you're going to be on Twitter immediately, not happy about it.
Yeah. So we'll see what finally comes out of that number. But as soon as that number is established, a final price is determined, then that stadium development agreement is approved by the Stadium Authority. And guess what that means? That means
Fewer meetings for you.
fewer meetings for me, but at the same time, that's when we'll start concentrating more on actually the structural
Actually
completion of the
driving
stadium.
by to see how and actually
Exactly.
like we did with T-Mobile Arena, although a much larger construction process this time, watching it rise up, which was really cool with T-Mobile, and I assume it's just going to be much better even with because
Bigger,
it's in
yeah.
much bigger at least
Bigger,
within NFL
yeah.
Stadium.
And the other thing that's important with that is that it starts the clock in terms of the Raiders being able to access that $750 million. The way the Senate Bill 1 was written, the Raiders have to put in the first $100 million, which they are in the process of doing with some of the things that they're doing on the site now. But after that, they can start tapping that $750 million. We'll start seeing some bond sales by the authority by March, April, May, that's around that time frame, and we'll start seeing that $750 million spent.
Rick, thanks very much for all the detailed information and reporting on the stadium. The best there is, Rick Velotta, reviewjournal.com. Follow him. Well, there you have it. We hope you enjoyed the show. And remember, for all your stadium and Raiders news, go to reviewjournal.com daily and check back right here at Vegas Nation, where we will continue to bring you stadium shows as the project is built before our very own eyes. I'm Ed Graney. Thanks for watching.